Everyone, welcome Teja Anna. Hello,
Hello,
welcome
Anna.
Bhaiya, welcome.
Hello, Via. Welcome.
D-
Hello,
Delighted to have you
Vijay.
here.
Yeah.
Delighted to have you, sir.
Hello, brother. Good evening, everyone.
Hey everyone.
Yeah.
Hi, hi.
Good evening, everyone. Now I would like to
Akash,
introduce
you can start. Yeah.
a young civil servant who was born and brought up in Warangal, mainly known as the capital of Kakatiya dynasty. He has completed his schooling in Warangal itself, and he has then passed out his 12th class from Sri Chaitanya of Hyderabad. He has secured All India 44th rank in IIT JEE Advanced 2014. Pursued his BTech in CSC in IIT Bombay and has graduated there from 2018. Leaving many opportunities in software sector, he decided to be a civil servant, and he has secured All India 52nd rank in Indian Forest Service in the year 2019. And recently, in the very declared results of UPSC, he has secured All India 344th rank in civil service examination. So, Vaya, this is a welcome to our society. Kartavya, it is started as a study group. It is a civil service society of Kirarimal College in University of Delhi. It provides a good platform for the civil service aspirants from the college level itself to seek guidance, gain awareness about the UPSC examination. It is formed in 2017 and it's being continued till now. Now, I'd like to
Right.
invite you to speak few words on this.
Right. First of all, thanks for the generous introduction, Akash. So, I thought first I'll talk about how I ended up preparing for civils, and then maybe a little bit on what my strategy was, and then I'll open the floor for questions. I'll take whatever questions you have. Right. So first, like you said, I graduated with computer science from IIT Bombay. I graduated in 2018. So I was in the exact same position that you were maybe just 2 years ago. And back then, when I was actually considering what to do next, so there were three very popular options for somebody from computer science background, IIT Bombay. So first, I tried getting a job in computer science field itself. So I tried two different interns, one in the finance sector, one in a startup, but I didn't actually like it there. So I figured while it was interesting, it was not something I could do, for next 30 years or 40 years, whatever. So then I was looking at other options. So the other popular options were either an MBA or civils. So then I tried the MBA option as well. That didn't work out well either. So after MBA, again, you'll be doing the same thing, grinding on and on without actually making a lot of difference. So then I looked up what civils was actually about. And back then, when I actually was considering civils, all I knew about civils was that you become an IAS after your, attempting civils. I didn't know about the different services that you have. But once I looked it up, I really liked what Indian Foreign Service was. So I read a couple of books. I talked to a couple of people who were in the Foreign Service, etc. And then I was sold. So Indian Foreign Service was what actually motivated me for into taking civil services. So that was the reason. That is still my first preference. That was the preference I gave even this year as well. So after that, what I did was I started. So this was towards the final semester. So we have a semester system, and this was towards the end of my final semester. So I started preparing for civils in March, somewhere around that time, and the exam was in June. I think May 31st or something. So I attempted after 2 months of preparation, but I couldn't get through. I missed by I think 1 mark or something. So I gave my attempt again. I went to Delhi because everybody told me that coaching was very important for civils. And I did go to Delhi, but what happened was that I didn't like the atmosphere there, and I didn't like the kind of study that they were doing there, and I missed home. I missed good food as well. So I went back to home. I attended optional coaching, but I didn't finish my GS coaching. I stayed there for I think about 2 to 3 months. I finished my optional coaching and I went back home. And since then, I've been preparing from home itself. I went back to Delhi again for interview, but that was just for a month or so. So most of my preparation was done online. There were, I think, one very important source that I used was IAS Baba's ILP program. So there I took the test series. I took a test every week diligently. So I think a lot of how I was able to sail through goes to that IAS Baba, particularly for prelims, because it's very important to take test series, and that is what helped me a lot. And along with that, my optional was chemistry. So I took, computer science as an optional was not available in civil, so I took chemistry as an optional. I did chemistry along with it initially, just after pre, but I didn't do it completely. I left a lot of it for after prelims. I was more worried about prelims, so most of my preparation was concentrated on, GS itself. And then after prelims, I started writing answers, which was a mistake again. So I should have done answer writing right from before, but I started writing answers later. So the reason I took, even JE instead of so BPC, so biology was what I was interested in. I wanted to, study medicine, but the reason I took JE was that I didn't want to write long answers. But eventually, I ended up doing the same thing here. So I postponed it as long as possible, but after prelims, there was no other choice. So I started, writing answers, and then I took test series at Forum IS, and the mentor there, Asif sir, helped me a lot. So that was regarding mains, and then I moved on to so I right from the start I also wanted to get through forest service because that was my second preference after foreign service. So then I got selected into forest service as well because my prelims score was a little higher, and I finished my forest service exam in December. Then I started. So I had a little, I knew that I will be getting selected for interview. I wasn't sure of final selection, but I thought I did well enough to get into the interview stage at least. So I started reading newspaper a little better. I mean, so the kind of preparation that you do for prelims is slightly different from how you do it for mains, and that is again different from how you do it for interview. So while reading for mains, right? So you know that you're going to write, let's say, 8 points in GS paper 1 and 2, and 12 points in GS paper 3. So you are not going to write more than that. So you can sort of have a fixed points. You know what kind of questions might be asked depending on what current affairs were and etc. But in interview, it's slightly different because the interview board will be judging you right in front of you, and they can question you differently again. So what happened was I started preparing for interview somewhere around January. I started reading 2 newspapers a day, and I started thinking of different aspects of what question can be asked. So, for example, let's say there are floods currently in Varangal right now. So it's a possible question because the interview board might have heard about it. So they will not only be asking you what mechanisms are there, which is what they'll generally be asking you in mails, and you'll write disaster response force and whatever. But they'll also be asking you what were the mistakes that the administration did that you might have done differently, and those kinds of things. So you have to be attentive. You have to know what's going on. And for mains, you'll generally just be reading this, central level news or international news, but you don't generally be concentrating on, state news or district news. So that is another factor that, you'll have to learn before interview. And then my interview happened. So first, my forest interview happened back in February. I got the second highest score, luckily. So that gave me a little bit more confidence in how to perform, how to improve for civils interview as well. Because the interviews are slightly different. Forest interview is a little more technical in the sense that they might ask you questions on, actual computer science or actual forestry or whatever. But in civils interview, it's a little more general. So it's generally, observation based, or they might give you a case study on how you're going to handle it and something like that. So that was my interview preparation. And yeah, then I've been waiting for results, and due to COVID, it got postponed for 4 months or something. So there you go. That was my story right from the beginning till selection. So I'd like to take questions from you. This to be a monologue. Online, it's very difficult to gauge what you guys are feeling, what you want to ask, what I'm talking about. So I'll straight up open the floor for you, and I'm willing to discuss anything, right? From this mains interview or about distractions that you might face, how to grind through. It's not always the case that you'll be getting selected in the first attempt itself, and so on.
So, bro,
Akash, there you go.
how you started the preparation? Means like where and at what point of time?
Right. So because I decided late, so March, so exam was in I think May 31st, and I had 2.5 to 3 months to prepare. So what I did was that year, I think Miss Artika Shukla, who got fourth rank back then, I think in 2016 or 2017, she had a blog and she was from a similar circumstance. So she also started preparing late. So I followed what suggestions she gave. There were two very important things: to stick to the, just the standard books and not to go overboard. Because what for prelims at least, what is important is testing and revision. So those two are the most important things. First, you need to write as many tests as possible, and then at the same time, you have to revise as many times as possible.
Friend, namely Rashmi, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Rashmi? Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I am audible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put your mics closer. All of
Good,
you.
good evening, Bhaiya. I want you to share your interview experience with us. Like, what kind of question interview board actually asked from you?
Right. So I gave two interviews. One was for the forest one, and one was the civils one. So the kind of questions they asked were different. Forest concentrates more on the technical aspect. So in my case, first I'll talk about the forest interview because that was a little shorter one, and then I'll talk about the you know civils interview. So
Okay.
for forest, what right? So for forest, what happened was that just a minute, I'll search for my transcript if I have it, so that I can directly replicate everything. Just give me a second. So yeah, for forest, it was pretty easy. The sense that the first initially the chairman himself, I was a little nervous. I think that's for whatever reason. So he told me that don't be nervous. I've been in your position, 35 years ago. He was a IAS officer from Tamil Nadu. The chairman was an IAS officer. So he told me that he was in the same position 35, 40 years ago, and I knew how nervous you are. So don't, if you have any problem, just tell us. If you don't know about that topic, tell us. Don't try to bluff. Just tell me that you don't know the answer, and I will, uh, stop asking questions from that topic and move to a different topic. So the questions mostly in forest service centered on, what things about environment, so about Kaziranga and other things, and which are forest specific. But coming to me, they asked me questions from my dad. So my mother was a teacher, so they asked me questions on education system. So, you know, uh, so the first question he asked was, what do you think testing is the best way? So, academic record is the best way to judge whether a person is intelligent or not. So I said that that was one of the factors, but not the only factor. There could be other factors as well, because we've seen a lot of people might not do well in tests because of other extraneous factors. For example, they might not have the, uh, support at home, or maybe they might not even be able to afford the books or whatever. And there are also other measures of intelligence. Just because somebody is smart doesn't mean that they are going to be ethical, and for that reason, they might, use their intelligence for evil. Let's say something like Hitler or something. So that was the topic. That was what I told, and she countered me saying, "So, do you think our entire, education system is at fault?" So I said, "It's not at fault. It's one way to measure. It's a mass testing thing. So, if you want to test a large number of people, that is the easiest way to test. but there are other criteria in real life that you'll be judged on, and something like that. So basically,
Your voice.
Bhaiya, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you please keep your mic close to your mouth? I know a lot of them are requesting. The voice is
uh,
cracking.
okay, I think the problem is mostly because of my internet. Can you hear me better now? Or,
Yeah, a little.
Yeah, it's fine now. It's fine. It's fine.
uh, okay, so okay, I'll turn off the video. I think because of that also, I think there's a problem with the internet. Yeah. So in any ways, uh, yeah. So most of my discussion was concentrated on the education sector. What were the problems? How I would address those. Uh, and at one point, you know, in interview, I think to a large extent, it's about how you respond to their questions, and you should have the courage to say no as well. I mean, in my case, they said that, okay, I agree with you, but I have a different view, is what he said, and he said that it's not possible to test everything. Then I countered. I said, sir, I politely disagree with you, but I think it's possible to do it because in exams like SAT or in exams, so when you go for MS in American universities, you also have an interview stage. So it's possible to do mass testing, other kinds of evaluation mechanisms also. And I think he was impressed by that, and having the courage, you know, to say you disagree is a very important trait in final service also. So you might have to talk to your superiors, and you might disagree there, and showing that courage is very important as well. So that was with my forest. That is where I think I turned the script. And coming to civil's interview, a lot of it was concentrated on my academic background because I passed out from a reputed college, so it's not very trivial, and not everybody goes to this stage. So, do I think it's a waste of seat or those kinds of questions were there? And then my interview board was Miss Sujata Mehta, who was also an Indian Foreign Service diplomat. She retired from Indian Foreign Service. So she asked me a lot of questions from international relations. For example, one question was on child labor and international relations. So she asked me that in European Union, when we are trying to export, clothes and everything to European Union, a common obstruction is that we use child labor, and EU tries to impose certain restrictions on us. So she asked me, do you think we should argue with them to let us send clothes even though uh, we have some amount of child labor? So I said that constitutionally we prohibit child labor, so we have right against among the fundamental rights itself, we directly prohibit child labor. So there's no way that we are going to ask them to allow child labor. If there's a problem, I think we have to rectify it from our side. And there were other questions also. For example, you know, uh, how do you use computer science, engineering, and civils? Or there was a question on Rohingyas. What are Rohingyas? So, is it a humanitarian issue or is it a security issue? So, which perspective would you take? And in these questions, you shouldn't be, unidirectional. You have to say both because uh, definitely Rohingyas is a humanitarian issue because so many people are uh, suffering. I mean, they are facing ethnic violence there, so we are going to take them in. But at the same time, there are some people there who might try to incite violence. For example, I think in 2013 or something, there were Bodhgaya blasts, which were associated to sympathizers of the Rohingyas or something related to them. So you have to look at both aspects, a security aspect and humanitarian aspect. So this is another important thing that they'll test in interview, whether you can take a broad perspective or you have a ideological bias against one particular direction. And then they asked me on in economics. So for example, is low inflation a good thing for economy? So that was one question. And I talked about how inflation might help for investment as well. So then they asked me about agriculture sector. They asked me questions on my optional, which was chemistry. Uh, so what are industrial catalysts, for example? And they asked me question on organometallic chemistry as well. And then one of the board members asked me questions on Telangana and AP. So because the state was bifurcated recently, right? So the question was, do you think state bifurcation is a good thing? And then I said, there's a good and as well as bad aspect to it. I mean, you want national integrity, then it's better to have larger states, but at the same time, when you don't have economic progress, there will be uh, certain security issues as well because people grow restless. And for that reason, bifurcation is good. So there's no one answer to it. You have to look at it from case to case perspective, and deal with it. And then so I've written CAT as well for MBA. So I was asked questions on that, why I choose to attempt for CAT and why I choose to go to seat at IMA. And then there were also questions on Jammu and Kashmir, because trifurcation happened recently. So how do you, because of union territory, what's the difference between bifurcation of AP and what happened in Jammu and Kashmir? So how do you suppose UT, Jammu and Kashmir is going to take it? I mean, as a UT. And then I was also asked questions on Yemen. I was asked questions on Venezuela. So I think there are two different aspects based on which they will ask you questions on. One is DAF, which you are going to submit, which is a detailed application form where you mention everything about yourself. So your parents' occupation, it can be your hobbies, it can be your educational interest, it can be your preferences. For example, mine was foreign service before IAS, so I was asked a lot of questions on international relations. And there's a second aspect to it, which is current affairs. So yeah, Rashmi, that's what I was asked. I can also send Akash my transcript if you want to take a look at it later.
Thank you for that,
Thank you
bro.
so much. Thank you so much.
After graduation, you have few options with you. Like you have scored 99.9% in CAT for the entrance to IIM, and you had a
Right.
good job opportunity. And leaving all this, when you are going for civils, there might be people around you pulling down. It's like it may not work out or
Yeah,
saying few things
definitely.
which may
Definitely.
discourage you. Yeah. So how to overcome that kind of things?
So in my case, it was a little easier because by then I've tried all the possible options. We had interns. I'm not sure if you guys do it. We had an intern in my third year and an intern in my second year. So in computer science, there are basically three kinds of jobs that you will do. It's either in a startup or in a corporate office or go to the financial sector. I knew that I wasn't interested in the corporate office, but I wanted to try both the startup option as well as the finance option. So I tried both of them. They were good for some time. I can do it for maybe 5 years, 10 years, but it definitely is not something I could picture myself doing it for 30 years. So then MBA was the other option. For me, MBA, after you go to IIMA, it's more or less the same as what you do after IIT Bombay as well. So you sit for this more or less the same companies because finance sector is the most demanded option. Uh, in finance sector, you have the same job. So in IIT Bombay, I applied for Goldman Sachs, I applied for TE Shaw, which are the same companies that you will be applying for after you graduate from IIMA also. So then I decided it might not be the best thing for me. I thought I'll attempt for civils. If I don't like it, if I don't qualify after 3 years, then I'll go back to IIM or whatever other option I might have. So that was the main reason I took CAT as well, so that I'll have enough confidence, even if I fail in civils, that I can go back. So I took CAT, I qualified, then I knew that even after 3 years, if I fail civils, then I can come back again. And then, like you said, right, other people, and that factor is definitely there. So I have friends who've gone to Harvard. I have friends in MIT. I have friends working at Google, Microsoft, and all the good companies that you can think of. And it sometimes gets very difficult. Uh, so I have seen posts on Instagram and elsewhere where friends joined, uh, such good companies and they've been traveling. So I have friends who've been to Thailand, I have friends who've been traveling, and sometimes it gets difficult to actually find the motivation to study in those cases. You can try two things. One, what I did was I uninstalled all those social media apps so that I can concentrate purely on this. And second thing is more important is that you have to remember why you are doing it. See, you see, all of you are from a very good university, which is the top, basically one of the top universities all over India. And yet you are choosing to do something that's difficult all over again. You are choosing civil services. So there should be a guiding reason why you are choosing it. So every time I felt demotivated, I used to, remember why I wanted to do civil services. For me, what helped was there was another senior, Ms. Peter Gilhart, who was actually in foreign service, and she had a wonderful blog. I used to go read the blog every time I felt, slightly demotivated to see how wonderful life is having. So then I'll remember. So all of you had worked hard in intermediate and 11th and 12th class, and that is the reason you are at the UNO. So I used to think of the same thing. So I worked hard during for JEE for 2 years, and I've enjoyed my life for 4 years at IIT Bombay. So that is what was the motivation again. I'm going to study hard for 2 years, maybe 3 years. Then once I get into the services, then I am going to put those posts that makes others jealous. So that is how I was motivated. It always happens. You definitely have to remember, what the reason was that motivated you for civils. Does that answer your question, Arash?
Yeah. And one of my friend, namely Tota Sai Manikanta,
Right.
he has written it. So
Yes, brother.
yeah, Manikanta,
Yeah.
you can ask the question.
Brother, I'm audible.
Yeah.
So thanks for the valuable time, brother. So my question is regarding international relations as an optional. Like personally, since childhood, have so much passion to be a diplomat and to work in the Indian Foreign Service, just like you, in fact. So I just wanted to know how international relations works out as an optional, and like what all books we can refer to study. That's it.
So first of all, I don't think there's an international relations optional. There's a political science and international relations as an optional. So you'll have to do PSIR.
Okay.
Right. So you will also have to deal with the political science aspect of it when you take it as
Yes.
an optional. And secondly, because I haven't taken PSIR as an optional, I don't know what exactly are the books that they refer to. I know that there are a few very popular institutes in Delhi itself which teach PSIR. I think I cannot recall the name as such, but there are a couple of institutes in Rajendra Nagar itself which give you very good training for PSIR as an optional. As far as and it's a very popular optional as well because this year I think there are a lot of students from PSIR that actually got selected, and it also helps you with GS2 particularly because GS2 is basically polity plus international relations mostly. So it helps you in the optional as well. As far as the books are concerned, I think you'll have to Google it. Even I am not aware of it, so sorry on that count.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Manikanta. And now our senior, Vinayak Bhaiya wants to ask a question. Vinayak Bhaiya?
Akash, I don't think Vinay Bhai is here.
Yeah?
Vinay Bhai is not here.
Okay. Sri Shaini Kethireddy wants to ask a question.
Hello, Anna.
Hello.
So actually, I have a doubt regarding the mains exam, the essay papers and all. There are a lot of questions and you have to really write a lot of stuff. I mean, the time is really less. How do we manage the time and how do we write? Even if you miss a single question, it's like we are practically out of the race. So how to manage time and how to practice this writing really fast and all?
Right. So this was a problem that even I faced because, like I said before, right, even back in 10th class when I had to write answers, I used to do very bad. So in every question, they used to cut marks because my handwriting was bad. or because I couldn't finish the entire paper. So that was the most difficult challenge for me as far as mains was concerned. So there is you do two things. One is that you will have you'll think of every possible question that can come and have a well prepared answer, and that is very important because once you go when your handwriting is slow, your thinking should be fast. So what I did was I used to make a list of probable questions or probable topics from which questions could come, and then I used to know. See, let's say for example, there's a question on health. Then I know how I start my introduction and how I end my conclusion. So, for example, if there's a question on health, I know that I'll cite the public expenditure in GDP codes or whatever committee is present, or maybe depending on the case. For example, if it's on child mortality, then I'll quote the infant mortality rate or whatever. So, I have the conclusion. I have the introduction prepared, and what it does is that when you have introduction prepared, you start writing immediately, and then you have some time. By the time you write introduction, you'll get other ideas. You'll be thinking about the question, and you won't have to stop and think for the answer. So this is one strategy. And parallelly, what I did was I took quite a few tests. Initially, it used to take me 3.5 hours to finish the entire paper, and that was the case with some of my other friends also, who used to take even 4 hours to finish the paper. But over time, you'll have to pick and choose your battles. For example, in some questions you know a lot, in some questions you don't know too many things. So just because you know 20 points in a question, you're not going to vomit everything out on the paper. You Because if you write 20 points, you are going to get 5 marks. If you write 8 points, you're going to get 4 or 4.5 marks. So just for half mark gain in one question, you are not going to leave other questions out. So you'll have to write only limited number of questions, limited number of points. You'll have to practice a lot. This doesn't come immediately. What I used to do was I used to have a stopwatch. I used to keep, 7 minutes. Let me see. Yeah, 7 minutes for a 10 marks answer and 11 minutes for a 15 marks answer. So 7 into 10 plus 7 into 10, 180 minutes. So I used to, as soon as the clock starts going to 6.5 minutes, I used to start writing the conclusion. There's no way, even if I know the answer completely, I'm not going to take more than that. So I used to get this, I did for 3 or 4 tests, and then, I became disciplined at, estimating how much time is left and when to stop writing an answer. And that is how you do it. So you'll have marks. So for me, first half an hour, I used to write 4 questions. Next 1 hour, I used to take more questions, 5 or 6 questions and so on. So I used to have preset marks, and that is how, for example, if you watch movies like Rush or anything, you'll see a race car driver also does the same thing. He knows where to be at which mark, at which time. And that is how I paced myself as well. Some questions you know a lot, but you will skip on writing everything. Some questions you don't know a lot, but you will write something just so that you'll get at least partial marks. Maybe 2 marks you'll get just because you've written something. So that is how you go about it. Take a lot of tests, have prefixed the intro and conclusion in your mind.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, bro. And one of my friend Mehak want to ask a question. Mehak?
Sure.
Mehak. Okay. And one of
Yeah. So, hello, sir. My question to you is that, like, as you said, after you're completing your graduation from IIT, you prepared for CAT as well, and then you started preparing for civil as well. Like, when we study for such a long time and continuously, there's this saturation point that comes in our head that we feel like just giving up, that we do not want to do anything anymore. So, how do we deal with that situation?
Yes. So that situation I still face. What you do is I used to take regular breaks. So every Sunday I used to study for just half a day and take a day off, take the rest of the day off, or maybe take the full day off. So I used to have certain rewards that you used to take. So for example, if I do well in a test, then the next day I used to take a break. Or sometimes you feel like it's a marathon, it's not sprint. So what you do is you keep pacing yourself. The same thing that I did during mains, right? You keep pacing yourself. You don't want to rush through everything. Sometimes some days are good, you do it well. Some days are bad. You try to distract yourself. So, for example, I used to watch TV definitely. So I used to watch at least half an hour. So I was a big fan of the French TV show. So I definitely used to watch at least one episode every day. And on Sundays, I used to take rest. I used to meet friends. It depends. So whatever interests you in. Sometimes, so during mains, when reading this got monotonous, right? So, like I said, I was interested in international relations. So I used to read biographies of ex-diplomats, which was a little interesting, and it used to get me motivated as well. So when I see something that they did, I used to feel, I used to remind myself of why I got into this in the first place, what got me interested in, Indian Foreign Service, and that gives you motivation. I agree that you get saturated at some point, but because this is mostly for the first year. Because before prelims, what happens is that it's very monotonous. That is the reason I used to have a fixed schedule. This is another very important thing. Forming a habit. So I used to wake up at a fixed time. I used to sleep at a fixed time. That helps you. That conditions your brain. Like whenever I wake up, I know that I'll have to read the newspaper, and I didn't used to think that I'm reading. It's just out of habit. So that is another strategy you can adopt. You can have a fixed timetable. You can take breaks. You can, find that motivation in yourself again. But definitely, there are definitely weeks, sometimes, days where you don't feel like reading. I used to take guilt-free breaks, completely guilt-free. Uh, I used to go, do something else for that entire week. Then I used to come back with the motivation to finish whatever I didn't do in the previous week and the next week. So that is how it was. You are not going to have it uniformly. You'll have to do it, in clumps. Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
And one of my senior want to ask that from where did you take coaching for chemistry optional? Which reference
Right.
books will you suggest to the aspirants opting chemistry as optional?
Right. So I took coaching from Delhi IAS Academy, DIAS. I didn't refer to any reference books because the class notes were very comprehensive enough. Uh, Inorganic was the only part where I had to refer to reference books. I did just JDL, which is very basic, which you also do for JEE. So I had my book from, whenever I prepared for JEE, and I used the same book. But for inorganic, you also have to refer to other books like Cotton and Wilkinson, for example, or other books. Sorry, not Cotton and Wilkinson. I think you'll find the reference books on DIAS Academy's website itself. Or there's also another senior, Abhijit Agarwal, who got, I think, AR 26 long ago in 2013 or 2014. And he has a wonderful blog where he describes whatever he did. He has the entire book list. He has his notes up there, and it was incredibly helpful in areas where the class notes was insufficient. In my case, I just relied on class notes because it was very comprehensive. But if I had to do it all over again, I think it's better to refer to other reference books as well, particularly for inorganic chemistry, so that you'll have an edge over others. Because almost everybody who prepares for chemistry goes to the same institute, so the answers generally are more or less similar. If there's a question that the same question other people know as well. So the edge that you get over will be in questions that are not mentioned in the notes. So this is where reference books help you. I'd suggest definitely going to Abhijit Agarwal's blog, and it has a lot of wonderful strategies and book list, everything comprehensively presented.
Thank you, bro. And Vinayak Bhaiya, are you ready for the question?
Sir, first of all, congratulations to you for securing such a great rank in this competitive examination.
Thank you.
So I have simple two questions, sir. First of all, how do you stay focused and remember so much? Because there's an ocean of things that you have to remember. So what is your key to remembrance? And the second question is that, sir. Okay, sir. First you answer first question, sir. Then I'll ask second question.
Right.
Otherwise, it will mix.
Sure. So first, focus part, like I said, for me, the strategy was to have a fixed schedule. So I know at which time what I'm going to do. So in the morning, for 2 hours, I used to read newspaper and current affairs from Insights. That was the schedule. Next, I used to do a test. Next, I used to do whatever reference book I had planned for that day. So that is for focus. Sometimes you get distracted. In my case, through Instagram or other ways. So I used to like playing games. I used to love playing FIFA a lot. So that was another thing that used to get me distracted. So you'll have to, always reorient yourself. Sometimes you'll go off the course. That's normal. That happens to everybody. You always have to keep correcting yourself from whenever you lose focus. And second thing you asked was about remembering. Uh, there's only one way to remember, that is by revision. You have to do a lot of revisions. For me, you know, I used to run away from social sciences all my life, but once I decided to do this, then I knew there was no way of running out. So I used to make notes whenever I prepare, and I used to revise the notes. I found this strategy long ago by I don't know where, but the way your brain remembers is that uh, you'll have you have a temporary remembering thing and a long term thing. So I used to revise. So whatever I write today in the morning, I used to revise after one day. I used to revise the same thing after 7 days and the same thing after 28 days. So that was my strategy. I used to do 3 revisions. So I write something today morning. I used to do it tomorrow. Just before I start preparation for the day, I used to revise the same thing tomorrow, and I do the same thing on the next Sunday, and I do the same thing after 1 month. And that definitely sends everything to your long-term memory, and you're going to remember it for life.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, second question is also simple, sir. Um, is it good, or I would rather say that it is advisable to join some other course like some diploma course or degree course while doing your preparation for this examination? Um, First of all, the regular course, and the next is that the open school course. So if first is कि कौन सा course लेना चाहिए, and if अगर लेना चाहिए भी कि नहीं लेना चाहिए, और अगर लेना चाहिए तो कौन सा लेना चाहिए, क्या हम दोनों कर सकते हैं?
Right. So I think here there's no one solution for everyone. I know people who did other courses. I think one of my seniors from IIT Bombay itself, who got selected, 2 years ago, uh, Ashima Mittal, she actually did anthropology. So her optional was anthropology, I think, and she actually did, anthropology from one of the universities, I think DU or JNU, in Delhi itself. But I know other people as well who don't prefer doing a course because it just distracts you from your primary target. So you'll have to remember, why do you want to do that course? Is it a distraction? Then you have to consider whether you can spend enough time to pass that course with a good score and then do UPSC as well. Or there's other reason. So, for example, if your course is the same as your optional, then it might help you get a better perspective on your course. So, in that case, you can do the course as well. But then the course you'll have to do it for 2 full years because you're going to do a master's. So, for 2 full years, can you afford so much time? Because particularly before mains, between prelims and mains, you will be lacking enough time to even revise everything that you've written before. So, can you afford that time? So depending on these both questions, you'll have to think for yourself whether you want to do a test or not, a course or not. In my case, even I was considering another course. I was considering doing it from IGNO, open school like you talked about. But then I decided against it because I figured I cannot do justice to both of the things at the same time. I'll have to, compromise on one or the other. And then I decided definitely I'm not going to compromise on UPSC after 2 years of preparation. So I went back on doing extra course from IGNO. There's always time to do an open course later once you get selected, once you have everything settled.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Hardik,
And
Hardik
hope for
Bhaiya
the best
wants
for the
to-
future.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hardik Bhaiya.
Yeah.
No.
Congratulations, Anna, for this great rank.
Thank
I
you.
just have, I have this one question that you worked so hard for the JEE and got into IIT Bombay, then 2 years of JEE, then 4 years of IIT Bombay. That's like 6 years of being aloof from the social sciences, the history, civics, geography. And then after 6 years, again picking on those books right from the sixth. So, how was the transition? Was it a smooth transition for you? I mean, not even, I don't think so that during JEE we even consider to read the newspaper or
Right.
rarely in an engineering college also. So after 6 years, just picking on those books again, just shunning the gaming culture. So how was the transition for you? How did you? Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely wasn't easy. Newspaper, first time when I started reading it, it used to take me 2 to 3 hours to finish the newspaper itself. There were a lot of things. There were cases mentioned. I mean, I remember back then, so Keshav Nanda Bharti case or whatever case they are going to mention. And then you'll wonder, I mean, do you have to remember all these sort of case names and what the case was? I don't know. So there's a context behind whatever is written in the newspaper, right? And because so you said that I was out of newspaper thing for 6 years. I never used to read. I mean, I think last time I touched a newspaper was back when I was in sixth or seventh standard, and that was just Telugu newspaper. And that, for me, newspaper then meant sports news. That's all. So I didn't read newspaper back then. So it definitely was difficult. It used to take a lot of patience. I used to feel underconfident whenever I read newspaper. So I read something, I forget. Again, I come back. Again, they mention some other case, and I don't know what that case was. Again, I'll go back. I'll have to Google. Then I remember I Googled it or again previously itself. So it used to be a difficult transition to make, definitely, but also at the same time it was interesting because for the last before starting preparation for the last maybe 7 or 8 years, I've been reading just sciences. So it got a little saturated, as somebody else mentioned it before, right? So it got a little saturated, and this was a very nice change of pace. I got very interested in reading newspaper. That is when I picked up interest in international relations. So I used to follow. I used to go above and beyond what was simply required for the UPSC, and used to read more about whatever news is present. So that is how I used to keep myself, fresh every time. Uh, Over time, it gets easier. Initially, it used to take me 3 hours. Now it takes me maybe 45 minutes to 1 hour, and even to write notes, and particularly the notes making thing. So that is very important. After prelims, you don't have time to make notes. You don't have time to read the initial books, reference books all over again. So if you have notes, it's definitely useful. So I used to make notes after reading newspaper, and like I said, my handwriting was extremely slow. So because of that, it used to take one full hour or maybe 35 to 40 minutes to make notes itself, and a lot of time used to go away in making notes itself. But over time it gets easier. You'll start having the context. You'll start knowing. You'll start analyzing for yourself. So initially, when I write editorials, I used to just take their perspective blindly. Then later, I started forming my own perspectives, and sometimes I used to disagree with the perspective that the editorial has, and that is how you grow. You'll have better answers as well for mains. That is how you do it. The transition was definitely not easy, but there's no other way about it. You just have to, go through it.
Thank you, bro. Nikhil
Just one
Bhaiya?
more question. Yeah. Sorry, one. Yeah. I just want to ask that, like in Delhi University, we all students, like there's a common ambition and we are always motivated for this exam. But as far as I know, in IIT Bombay, you being from a core branch of computer science, there is a very vibrant coding culture and all that. And like in Delhi University, the atmosphere is like quite active for the preparation. But in IIT Bombay, the last year topper, Mr. Kataria, was from IIT Bombay, your branch only. This year also the rank 3 girl from IIT Bombay. So what do you think that the atmosphere in IIT Bombay is leaning towards the civil exam or not?
Uh, I think recently some people have started preparing for civils. They definitely, I mean, in IIT Delhi, there is a huge culture of preparing for civils. I mean, a lot of people who got into IIT Bombay sometimes leave their, IIT Bombay seat and go to IIT Delhi to prepare for civils. So there's a culture in IIT Delhi, but in IIT Bombay, it's a relatively newer culture. Back when I was preparing, I didn't know anybody, any senior that was actually preparing. Uh, Prithvidej is the only one I knew who got, I think, somewhere around 20s AR in 2018. He got AR1 in JEE back then. So
he was the only one I knew, but I didn't know him well. So I didn't have a lot of, seniors to rely on like you guys have. You have a very good society that, connects you with other people who have been through this journey. So for me to go through this journey, blogs help me a lot. There are different people that write the blogs who have been in a similar position. I mean, from IT Bombay, particularly from computer science, it's definitely not a classical choice because in other branches, you don't have the best jobs there. So for that reason, quite a few people go into civils. But from computer science, it's pretty rare for somebody to go into civils. From my batch, there were only two people, me and another friend, and that happens every year. Maybe at most one or two people that go into civils because we have very good other opportunities. But at the same time, now there are a lot of people writing blogs, a lot of people that have videos uploaded on YouTube, and that is what I use. Because I don't have this base to rely on. I used to read those blogs to understand how they went about it, and in this sense, joining a test series was another boon for me because that test series told me which books to read, which topics to read, how to pace myself. So if you don't have this culture there, you have to rely on somebody else's culture. So I used to, sometimes talk to friends from DU, or I know a professor from DU who helped me a lot while preparation. So that is how you do it. When you don't have the culture with you, you will have to, get yourself integrated into somebody else's culture.
Thank you, bro. Nikhil Bhaiya wants to ask a question. Nikhil Bhaiya.
So congratulations, Anna, for making in the UPSC civil service examination as well as in the forest examination simultaneously. So as sometimes like you told that after prelims you don't have enough time to prepare notes of current affairs or let's say of any standard book. So I want to ask, what was your revision strategy, and did you make any notes out of standard books and NCERTs, or you just rely on making notes for current affairs?
I did make notes out of standard books as well. Polity, I didn't make notes from Lakshmikant because Lakshmikant itself is a big notes. So everything you need is in there. And if you start making notes, it will be as big as Lakshmikant again. So I didn't make notes for polity from Lakshmikant. So my polity notes were just current affairs and some important points. For example, like I said, right, I used to have my intro ready. So I used to have, for example, there's a question on religious freedom. I know which article to quote. So I used to have some very brief notes, but not a full-fledged notes for polity. But for every other subject, I made proper notes. Geography, I have notes from NCERTs. For ancient and medieval, I had notes prepared from, Tamil Nadu textbook. For modern history, I had notes prepared from Spectrum. So for every other topic, I did have notes prepared. And it definitely came in handy. I think the mistake I made was that I didn't have notes for chemistry, which was a mistake, and that is the reason I think my rank went a little higher. If I had notes for that as well, I think I would have had a better rank this time. So for each and every one of you, I'll suggest definitely making notes, but at the same time, you'll have to, make sure that the notes you make is not as big as the textbook itself. You have to know what to condense on. So your notes should be such that whatever is present in it is going to be useful to write for mains. So I had 3 sets of notes. First, I made notes before prelims, but I didn't do it, as well as I should have. So I had a lot of additional things in my prelims notes. So I had to cut down on it so that I'll have a short notes which I can refer to 1 week before the exam. So I made short notes between prelims to mains while I was taking the test series, mains test series itself. I made a short notes, and then you also have to have ultra short notes 1 hour before the exam, so that you'll revise all your introductions, all your articles, all your cases, all your statistics that you're going to present. Or let's say in ethics, you have to quote some personality, so quotes or their real life examples. Or like somebody mentioned about essay, right? For essay, you'll have to have some quotes, sometimes Sanskrit quotes or sometimes a good quote or a good anecdote. So those kinds of things I used to make another set of notes for 1 hour before the exam. So that is how I made notes.
Sir, one more question to that. I have some doubt. Basically, I am facing difficulties in subjects like geography and economics because I don't have any background in it. So, what was your strategy to both for geography as well as for economics?
See, okay, first let me talk about geography. Geography, there are two parts. One is Indian geography and one is physical geography. And there's a human geography aspect of it. But from human geography, there are not a lot of questions. So there's a very fixed. So from human geography, the kind of questions you will be asked is why automobile industries are located in a particular region or something like that. So human geography is a little easier because the questions tend to repeat, particularly in mains. So you can look at previous questions and see what kind of questions you need to read. For this human geography, you can refer to NCERT or you can refer to a coaching notes. For example, Vision at least has a very good notes, or you can refer to IS Baba's value-added notes that you get from ILP or any other source for human geography. So coming to Indian geography, what happens is that you'll have to remember. So Indian geography is slightly different when you attempt prelims and mains. In mains, the kind of questions that you'll be asked will be, for example, first for prelims, the kind of questions you'll be asked will be which state has the highest, coastal area, or which two cities are present on the same meridian, which was a prelims question last time, or something like that. So it's mostly remembering. When it comes to mains, the questions are slightly different. For example, popular questions are on monsoons that happen in India. So that is a popular question in Indian geography. Or if you come to physical geography, they might ask you on earthquake mechanism, or there was a question on mantle plumes the year before, something like that. So for these, what you do is make notes out of NCERTs. There are two books for NCERTs, I think 11th part 1 and 2, or maybe 11th part 1 and 12th part 1. I'm not sure. You'll have to look it up. I made very good notes from that, and that is all I referred to. So people say you have to do GC Leong, people say you have to do other notes. All that is not necessary. As far as UPSC is concerned, NCERTs are more than sufficient. Just do that well, prepare proper notes, you will be through. For economics, it's a little more difficult because economics has a current affairs component added to it. So for economics, what I did was static economics. I prepared from IS Baba itself. IS Baba LP program has a value-added notes. So I prepared economics notes from the value-added notes part. And for current affairs part, I used to write, like I said, from newspaper, I used to make notes every time. So for example, GST was in news very frequently last year. So I was expecting some question from GST. So I made notes on GST, what GST was, what taxes are under it, what is the growth rate, for example, statistics to distinguish myself from other answers. So those kinds of things. And that question was asked in the final exam. So I knew what to write on GST. And similarly, so if anytime some topic repeats, for example, NPS is a common problem in Indian economy. So there's a twin balance sheet problem. So I used to make notes on twin balance sheet problem. What are the committees regarding it? What are the suggestions? And so on. And take any topic from current affairs and try making notes on it. I mean, if it's probable that it might come in mains. So that is how you deal with it. You make notes, you revise it, you'll definitely be able to do it.
So you have not specifically used any book for physical geography?
No, just NCERT.
Okay, thank you. All the best for your career.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro. And two of my friends want to ask that. Which is the best way to make notes for current affairs? E-notes or with pen paper?
Right. So it's up to you. I mean, it depends on your preference. For me, pen and paper notes is the better one because when you write e-notes, what happens is that you copy, paste something. So you do, you select something, you do a Control-C and you do a Control-V. That in my opinion is not the best way to do it because when you actually put something on the paper, then you'll be actively thinking about it, which helps you in remembering it. But that is my view. I have a friend who does it online instead of paper because he says that, you might want to refer to it whenever you're walking or something, you're in the metro or something like that. And it's not possible to do it when you take notes in the paper. I didn't used to do all those. I prefer physical notes so that I can underline it, I can edit it, I can do whatever I want, and it feels more natural for me. It depends on your perspective.
Adip wants to ask a question. Adip.
Hello, Anna.
Yeah.
Hello.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Congratulations, Anaya. And my
Thank you.
question was how to avoid the 1/3 negative marking scheme in our prelims, because every question in the paper excites us to attempt the question, but considering the negative marking, how can we just limit our questions and make our answer crystal clear?
Right. So it depends. I mean, see, you're talking about 1/3 negative marking, right? So if you do a little statistical analysis, right? So if you do it completely randomly, the probability of getting an answer right is 1/4, and the probability of getting an answer wrong is 3/4. So with 3/4 probability, you'll get -1/3, which is 3/4 into -1/3 is -1/2, and the probability of getting it is right is 1/4 into 2, it's half. So plus half and minus half gets cancelled. So basically, the computer science students in me tells that if you attempt everything randomly, you'll have to get 0 on an average. But you're obviously not going to attempt it randomly because you have some intuition about every topic. You have, in some way, might not be able to remember it. For example, if you see the name of some scheme, you might get a hint that some of the schemes are all, all of these schemes have a nice ring to it. For example, PM Asha scheme or something like that. So because that what that scheme is or anything. So because that generally what
Adip, please mute yourself.
To attempt all 100 questions so that on an average you will score better. But I have other friends who don't attempt 100 questions but only attempt 80 or 90 questions. But everybody, I think you should take rest because see, finally you need to score around 100 or 105 marks to get through. That is all you need. You don't have to score 120, 130. But at the same time, if you attempt only 50 questions and you want all 50 questions to be correct, it will be very difficult. So you'll have to practice and choose whichever strategy is better for you. For me, attempting all 100 questions was the best strategy. If I attempted 70 questions, I got around 100. But if I attempted 100 questions, I used to get around 120 plus. So while the increase in marks was not very high, because you'll be guessing more questions if you attempt all 100, but at the same time, it was still positive increase. So I used to take a lot of guesses. You have to take a lot of tests and choose whichever strategy is best for you. And at the same time, I've seen another question from Rashmi who asked, is it not difficult to update notes from time to time on pen and paper? So this was the problem in my case as well. So initially I used to write notes in a book and it was difficult to update. So what I did was I shifted to writing notes in paper. I used to have A4 sheets and I used to make notes. And whenever I had new material to write, I used to write it in another paper and stick it after it. So yeah, I think that answers both of your questions.
There is Roshan with the question, are you satisfied or going to appear for one more attempt?
I'll have to see, depending on the service I get. I think I'll go for another attempt, but for now, I'm not thinking that far. I'm currently enjoying my rank for now, so let me see.
Okay, bro. And what do we need to have in mind during preparation? Clearing the examination or reason why we started it?
I think it's both. I mean, primarily it's clearing the examination because none of you will want to just take the examination for the fun of it. You don't want to spend one full year preparing and one full year attempting the exam just to take the exam without clearing it. So clearing the exam is definitely very important. And to clear the exam, sometimes you get demotivated, and then that is when you have to remember why you are attempting it. See, another thing about that, now that you mentioned clearing the exam, so some people, what they do is try to do research into GS and, go into very in-depth details, which are not going to be asked in UPSC exam. Definitely, they are fun. I used to do that for international relations because it was fun for me, but it's not the best way to approach the exam because exam is literally general. So general studies is general. In that aspect, you don't have to know everything about the topic. You have to have a basic idea about the topic. and you have to write just 6 points or 12 points on that particular topic. So my advice is not to go too much into research. Just time to do it later. Once you get selected into services, maybe see after 7 or 8 years, you can go for masters. Then you can develop expertise in one particular aspect. But definitely, as far as exam is concerned, I suggest to stick to whatever is needed for the exam.
Thank you, bro. And thanks for this beautiful session.
Thank you. It's been an honor. I've heard a lot of good things about your college before, so it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you for that. I would like to invite our society president, namely Hardik Dasila, to give a few words.
Yeah. Anna, it was a great delight to interact with you for this one hour. It was a really fruitful session. And to have you right here is such an inspiration. In that day, Akash had uploaded the status on his WhatsApp that he had qualified. And since that day, we were contacting him. Yeah, we want him. We want to interact with him. And it's so nice of Akash and so nice of you to come with us, to come among us and answer all these doubts. And you've been so humble and so sweet. And we all are very grateful. And I hope we all just continue this association with each other. And
thank you.
Yeah.